When the announcement was made and the accident occurred, this hastened the aspects to cultivate life forms before the defectors were able to corrupt its kind entirely. So once Cullum breathed life into the 9 ether beings via the aspects, they would be able to seek other life forms and manifestations in order to awaken their consciousness. For the defectors vow to destroy life forms before they are able to reach consciousness and make contact with the aspects. So the original 9 ether beings, or naturals for reference, operate from their home planet, which has ascended to the highest heights, called on high. This realm we call on high is the closest to Cullum any manifestation can reach. It is incomprehensible from the depths due to the vast difference in vibration. So in order to reach that place, a life form must ascend through states of existence. Thus, the naturals implanting themselves into life forms so that doorways to these states could be opened. And life forms such as Cullum's progeny on Earth, who have the divine genetic material from on high, are easily brought to consciousness. While those who lack the material must be brought to consciousness by other means, i.e. graftation. This means cells are blended together and/or split apart to form a new manifestation. Everything from cells to atoms, to whole life forms, and even solar systems can be grafted. This is the defectors' favorite mechanism since they have been cut off from Cullum's creative power. They must make their own objects and manifestations from things already created, having no creative ability of their own. This lack of creativity and imagination is what makes certain life forms more susceptible to corruption. The first form to be corrupted was the reptilian form that spawned within the structure in another location away from the 9 ether beings. The rebellious one has always been using this form to cause conflict ever since the accident. The aspects had to find similar manifestations to graft themselves into this form so that its kind would not be entirely lost to the defectors. This led to more conflict within the structure, even reaching on high, more on that later. So as the aspects went on cultivating consciousness and life forms, the defectors continued corrupting life forms. This led to the creation of many manifestations via merger with the aspects and graftation by the defectors. The first form enlisted by the naturals to the fight against the defectors was the insectoid form. This being was able to match the physicality of the reptilians because, though the human form is extremely mentally powerful, it is fragile compared to the natural armor of the reptilians and the exoskeleton of the insects. And both of these life forms vastly outnumber the humans. So the naturals transplanted DNA from on high into the ants and the bees first, and graftation began from there. Then the defectors devised a plan to corrupt these forms and build an army with them via artificial intelligence. But the defectors planned their plan in ignorance of Cullum's plan. For Cullum let them steal a tablet that would allow them to reprogram these beings. But they did not know that these forms were manifested from the state of peace, a state of existence they are unfamiliar with because it came about due to their rebellion. They did not know that spawning a life form with the energy of this state must be done with good intention, otherwise the manifestation will turn on its creator, and that is exactly what happened. The defectors attempted to graft insectoid beings with ill intent, so they turned on the defectors and their reptilian life forms and waged war against them. And in these wars, the winner typically consumes the loser. So these bug-type forms follow the defectors around the ultimate as predators, and they follow the aspects as protectors. But these beings began to proliferate beyond the control of both the aspects and the defectors, causing some species to overprey. So another life form was raised in order to keep balance. A winged life form was called upon by the aspects, and they did not need to transplant genetic material from on high because this form possessed it from the seeding by the original aspects. These birds, or avians, would be able to overwhelm both the insects and reptiles with physicality and conscious ability. They were easily brought to the heights of consciousness and are an integral part of the structural order. So between the humans, avians, reptilians, insectoids, and many other life forms yet to be mentioned, Cullum now has an abundance of perspectives to experience its own creation.